Welcome to Big Brother Basics, where we break down the basics of Big Brother Canada 3. My name's Jacob Harple, and joining with me tonight, as always, is the most fantastic, the most fabulous Keith Guerrero. How are you doing tonight, Keith?
I'm doing fantastic, fabulous, and the Roos is loose.
The roof is loose tonight, and I want to just add that you look very classy tonight.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
You're welcome. So much to cover tonight. We really had a jam-packed episode. We had the HOH competition, then we had nominations, and most importantly, we had the returning twist where we had Cindy with an S come back in the game. How do you feel about her coming back in the game? Are you stoked to see it's her? I think we kind of knew it was going to come down to her and Naya. That's who we were going back and forth. But I know that for a couple of weeks you were in her corner. So what are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling ecstatic with an S. No, I'm really, really excited. Good for Cindy. I think Canada knew if it was going to be an endurance competition that Cindy with an S was going to pull it out. And it looks like she did. I mean, she's hung on that rope for her dear life. And it was fantastic to see. I'm just glad it was between her and Neha at the end. Like those are our final two options, and like it was a win-win from that point on.
Oh yeah, I think those two definitely wanted it the most. They were up there for about an hour and a half, and I think it was down to just those two in the first 30 minutes. So it was really great to see both of those two. Really hard to see Neha get eliminated. As soon as she fell down, she just rushed right off the stage. She just was just done. It was over. She even said in her DR, she's like, "You think instant evicted sucks, then this was 10 times worse." So really sucks. But I I am actually really optimistic about Cindy coming back into the game. I think everyone in the house was so concerned about either Greg or Neha coming back in that if it was one of those two, it was going to be really easy for the house to kind of unite and send her out. But I feel like Cindy has a really good shot of going in and at this good time in the game where she can find cracks and create a solid alliance with for herself.
100% agree. I think people are going to view Cindy as someone that they can attract because like there's these cracks dividing, and Cindy can definitely play that card to her advantage.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that she's back because I'm really hoping that we get some funny segments where she tries to game talk, but then at first checks all the bathrooms before she says anything.
You better check those bathrooms, girl. Learn from your mistakes.
Learn from your mistakes. Okay, so let's take it back. Let's take it back. Let's go to the very beginning of the episode. So we're finishing off the HOH competition, and lo and behold, we have Newport take it home. Zach himself busts it out. Were you surprised to see that the final three people in this competition were Zach, Pilar, and Godfrey?
I would have never picked that combination for a before and after
Me either. Same
here. Pilar, I didn't expect it from Godfrey, and honestly, I also didn't expect it from Zach. Like, those were some complete random before and after final three, but kudos to them for knowing what happened before and what happened after. At least it shows us that Pilar's paying attention to what's happening in the game, you know? Like, I love that Pilar knew all the answers to that. Good for her.
Yeah, she might not be good at calculating minutes, but, her heart was in it. Her heart was in it.
And I'm also glad that Godfrey had the opportunity to potentially win HOH, and it was so close between him and Zach. I mean, I think they both really wanted it, but it just came to the tiebreaker, and Zach won. But as soon as Zach won, here comes Jordan being Mr. Secrecy himself,
he just
attack Zach.
Yeah, I was baffled. But let's take about just a second because I want to talk about this about Jordan. So Jordan screws up on one of the challenges, one of the questions. I think it was pretty early, like maybe the third or fourth question. And Zach has this really interesting DR where he's just like, I thought Jordan was the brains. I guess I'm the brains in the brawn, and he's just the dead weight. Do you think that Zach is starting to kind of devalue Jordan and Newport? And do you think that their bonds are maybe getting weaker?
I mean, in relationships, there's always a reacher and there is a settler. And I think Zach is feeling like he's settling by working with Jordan on this specific instance. But the number one thing you need to worry about in the Big Brother game is loyalty. And he has that 100% with Jordan. So the fact that Jordan messed up on this competition, I think that's a little bit too harsh of a statement coming from Zach. Especially if, I don't know, I think that Zach is just thinking that his shit smells like roses now. He feels super confident in his position in the house. A lot of people, he has a lot of options to choose from. So now he's like, oh, I don't need Jordan, so I'm just going to remove him like a flea from that's withering around me. Like,
From my beautiful kingdom.
it's a very pompous statement to say to somebody who has been nothing but loyal to you and enthusiastic about working with you.
I feel like Zach, I think maybe it's coming from the fact that I think Zach is starting to realize that out of those two, he's definitely the bigger target. So there might be that paranoia or frustration that it's like, God, this sucks. I don't want to be as out in the open as I am. Jordan is nowhere near as big as conceived as or viewed as big a threat as me. And I think it might have a little bit of that. So it'll be interesting, but I don't know. Not a good episode for Jordan, in my opinion.
Definitely not.
So let's keep going. So Jordan, after his celebration, realizes that he probably shouldn't have jumped on Zach and had a Super Bowl Howie moment. So he starts thinking, you know, what's the best way that we can try and distance ourselves? I know. I'll go on the block. I'll put me up next to Godfrey as a pawn. There's no way I'd leave over Godfrey. He's even said, you know, it could be one of the dumbest moves ever, but it's just so crazy that it might work, which I perceived as famous last words. What do you think about this mindset that Jordan has and the idea to put himself up on the block as a pawn?
In the Big Brother house, simple is always better. Keep it simple, stupid. If you're aligned with somebody, don't volunteer to be a pawn. I mean, you can already tell that Zach has great relationships with anybody, so he'll take any volunteers. He's accepting applications for whoever wants to be on the nomination block. If you go to him and say, hey, put me up, that's all you have to say. You don't have to say any justification or anything. Those are the only words that Zach needs to hear. You're going to go up. So Jordan made a huge, huge judgment, like, in error, and, like, I don't know. It was a really, really big mistake. I think he was thinking about the game way too much, way too caught up in the moment, reacted very poorly, and now he may pay the consequences of his actions.
I completely agree. And, you know, I don't just blame Jordan for it. I mean, I give him most of the blame, but I'm a little disappointed in Zach, too. I think when you're HOH and you're thinking about pawns, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in the term pawn. I think if you're on the block, you're just as likely to go home as the person sitting next to you. And to flirt with that or try and control that in some way, I think is just asking for trouble. I think when you're selecting people to go up on the block, I don't think you should ever put someone up unless you are totally willing to have them be the one that gets evicted. It's kind of like with Nicole when she nominated Jocasta just as a pawn. But then there was that total flip where they saved Zach and voted out Jocasta. And that wouldn't have happened as she just put up two people that she was totally cool with leaving instead of someone just the safe option in the pawn. And I think it's very dangerous. You know, like you said, simple is best. Don't overthink things. Don't try to get cute, because if you get cute, it's going to come off as overconfidence and people are going to take advantage of your vulnerability.
Yeah, I completely agree. But the caveat, I think that Zach, he would only agree to something that he thinks would benefit him. And honestly, Jordan leaving would benefit Zach's game. He already has relationships with, I forgot what the couple's alliance is called, but he has the relationship with him and Ashley and then Kevin and Pilar. And then he could still flirt with the idea of working with the chop shop remnants, you know? So like with Jordan gone, that thing that's attached to his hip, that's potentially cancerous to Zach's game. If Jordan ends up walking out the door, Zach is, in my opinion, in a better position with Jordan leaving.
It's tough because I think it's hard because it's almost at that point where it's kind of like the damage has already been done. You know what I mean? Like the chop shop people are already thinking about getting rid of Zach. They realize how good he is with all of these other people. You know, Sarah had her frustrations with Zach the previous round. So it's like, even if Jordan goes home, I feel like Zach's just kind of left out there in the middle. And I don't know, it's tough. Like, I think you could argue that Jordan leaving could help Zach's game, but I don't know. I just think Zach is slowly just coming up to the top of the list as far as targets go. And regardless if Jordan's in the house or not, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Boom.
But let's talk about the Diaper Alliance because they introduced this alliance to us today. And it's basically the couples plus JP. And so we've got Pilar, Kevin, Ashley, and Zach, and then JP. They're named the Diaper Alliance because they're the youngest kids in the house. What do you think about this alliance? Do you think this is a solid group? Zach seems to trust this alliance the most. This is the group he wants to roll with. How do you feel about this group of 5?
Well, first off, let's talk about the name.
Horrible.
It's hard for me to like critique a name because like alliance names generally I despise. Like I just can't stand alliance names. But Diaper Alliance, you better be cleaning up your shit.
Yeah.
No, it's an awful name. The people inside the alliance, though, I think it's very, very interesting. You have Pilar and Ashley. You have, the 3 boys, the 3 amigo, the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And the powers within the alliance are actually pretty distributed pretty evenly. And by evenly, I mean it centers on Zach. Zach has Ashley, Zach has JP, and then Kevin and Pilar have each other and are benefiting from the 3 others as well. So I don't know. It's somewhat even, but Zach is definitely benefiting the most, which is why I see that Zach likes that alliance the best.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Do you think Kevin is kind of slowly going under the radar now? We know that Bruno and Bobby expect Zach to backdoor Kevin this week. So in a way, they're kind of targeting him, but how do you think of Kevin in the game right now? Do you think he's positioned himself fairly well? Is he still likely to go in the next couple of weeks? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's like an obvious target, but people want to hide from that shield. And if they do it too much and they don't get rid of him, he's going to slowly become like invisible. And their mistake is if they keep Kevin in for another 2 or 3 rounds, acting as if we're going to backdoor Kevin, we're going to backdoor Kevin. It's just never going to happen. So I don't know. Kevin, I think, is playing his cards right. And he's playing the game that he wanted to play at the very beginning. So hopefully he can position himself and play the under the radar game that he wanted to do. But people will always have in the back of their mind, whenever there was 12 people competing, he won the power veto easily, and like he was a really tough competitor generally. But I think Kevin's doing what he needs to do, and he's allowing Zach to, I guess, step into the limelight a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about Godfrey because we talked a little bit about him last episode and had some interesting things to say. We got so much from him tonight, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really hoping he's able to get through this week. He's basically saying Zach's got to go. This guy has no enemies in the house. Everybody likes him. He is the biggest threat in this game. What do you feel? What do you think about Godfrey's perception of Zach and him wanting to take him out?
You mind if I refer to you? What do you think about Godfrey? How do you feel about Godfrey's feeling about Zach leaving?
Honestly, in a way, I kind of associate. I feel the same about Godfrey that I do about Bruno, where I really like what I'm seeing. I think he's got a lot of perception. I think he's definitely underestimated. My one thing about Godfrey, though, is I think that his social game hasn't been that strong, and he doesn't have the pull that he's going to need to make all these big moves. So I love what he's saying in the DRs. I like that he wants to target Zach, that he would have used that double veto to make a big move. That's what he kept saying over and over tonight. I want to make a big move. I want to make a big move. And it's just like, I just don't know if he's going to be, like, if something goes wrong and the veto doesn't get used, let's say, I don't know. I don't know if he has the pull or the social game to gather people and get them on his side. So that's my one concern. But I think he's definitely underestimated, and I love that he wants Zach out. I'm glad that Zach has an enemy, I guess.
That's what Zach needs, an enemy. But it's also interesting that Zach identifies that and proceeded with his nominations the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zach got half of his nominations, right? I think God put up on the block. And I love that conversation that he has with Godfrey where he's just like, he's talking to him in the kitchen. He's just like, so yeah, I'm going to put you and JP up. And then JP comes out and he's like, hey, we're block brothers, which is just another example. Like, so like Godfrey, like JP's like, yeah, we're Block Brothers, you know, sucks, but I guess we just got to do it. And so that freaks Godfrey out because he's like, why the hell is JP so fine with being put on the block?
What?
Like Godfrey's like, what the heck is going on? And so then he runs and tells Bruno and Bobby, and they start freaking out and start thinking, okay, Zach and JP, like, this is not good. Like,
JP's
I don't
awful. JP is awful.
I'm telling you, this was the worst episode I think for JP ever. Like this, it was bad. It was very bad for JP.
That sounds really, really bad. I can't believe he would just come in and be like, "We're Block Brothers." Like, what the hell? Like, don't.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, you know, I guess we got to go on the block. It's like, no, like that's not someone. That's not a person who's mad about being on the block. That's not something that they would say. Like, oh, well, you know, I guess we got to do what we got to do. Especially since the original plan was for him to like act surprised and mad at being put up.
Right.
Now it's like he puts it out there that he knows he's going up. He's expecting it. And so it's just like, I don't get it. I don't get what I feel like JP's just trying to do this just to do something crazy. And I think it's stupid. And if he really was smart about his game, he wouldn't have even thought about doing something like this.
Yeah, like he's awful at theater. He can't act to save his life. And if he doesn't want to be associated with Zach, why would he go in the room where Zach is telling Godfrey and then say, like, hey, we're Block Brothers? Like, that just shows that you had insight about the plan of them both going up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I feel like JP, he gives us all this good insight in the DR. It's like we're watching two different people. And he's like, he's in the DR and he's like, this is what I got to do. I shouldn't have done this. This was dumb. I need to work on this. But then he just goes right back out there and it makes the same mistakes over and over and over again. And that paired with the fact that he won't shut up about his knowledge about Big Brother and Survivor, it's just like he's just totally asking for it. And to be put on the block, it's just so dangerous. It's so dangerous. And I get that you have to take risk, but this is not a risk he had to take. This is, yeah, like, it's dumb. That's all I have to say. Like, it's stupid.
You're done, JP. You're done.
So Zach nominates Godfrey and Jordan, and it was a pretty interesting speech because he just says to Godfrey, he's like, Godfrey, you've been taking naps up till day 29. Time to wake up. And then he puts up Jordan. He says, you know, I have to do this. I think this is the best option for me strategically. That's it. What do you think about that nom speech?
I mean, I think Zach is the type of person where less information is better. He doesn't like to go around saying, like, I personally dislike you. I personally dislike you. Or I'm going to tell you everything about my strategy. So all right here in the nomination ceremony. I think he's great. I think that short, sweet, to the point is better. So that speech I have no problem with. All the strategic talk he did prior to the nomination ceremony. So this is all he had to do for the speech. I mean, I think it makes absolute sense. And it just kind of shows me why Zach is a better player than JP.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think about the speech?
I mean, it was good. I think he's completely pushed off. He's completely pushed off Godfrey. I feel like Godfrey's pissed, and for him to say something like that, I don't know.
Well, Godfrey was gunning for Zach anyway. Like if
but he doesn't seem to know that. Like he never said in his DR, I have to put up Godfrey because I know he's coming after me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. Nom speeches are weird, you know. But I'm glad he was kind of upfront about it, and I think he handled it fine.
Awesome.
So they have a conversation, the Diaper Alliance, about who to target. They basically, Zach's like, you know, I'm going back and forth between Bobby and Bruno. They feel like Bobby is less of a threat than Bruno because with Bruno out of the game, Bobby is too stupid to get anything done. He'll just kind of be a sitting duck. Whereas Bruno, if Bobby leaves, Bruno has the ability to rally troops. They're afraid he would possibly try and get Sarah, Brittany, Willow, and Godfrey. And that's a lot of numbers together. What do you think about their argument for targeting Bruno instead of Bobby? Do you think it's valid? Do you think it doesn't matter? What are your thoughts?
I think it's completely valid. It shows that they're insightful. They're thinking long term. Bruno is definitely way more dangerous than Bobby. That shouldn't even be a comparison. I think Bobby's not a threat at all. If anything, he could stand on a wall for 3 hours, and that's about it. You can evict that person immediately. I don't know. I don't see Bobby as a threat by any means. He has no pull. He doesn't want any blood on his hands. He's completely irrelevant in the game, and he's a follower of Bruno. Bruno's somebody that can make change. So anybody that can make change is a detriment to the game, especially the game that Zach's playing, because Zach is such like an integral figure inside a lot of hands right now, and Bruno can mess that up. So I think that conversation was very good, and I think that Bruno should be a threat and a concern for that alliance.
I completely agree. He is 10 times more threatening than Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is the good thing. Let me ask you this, though. Is it a good move for Zach to target Bruno this week?
This week specifically, see, it's very interesting because there's still a lot of floaters. But honestly, yeah, I think it would be a great time to strike at Bruno. Like, sure, win veto, have veto be used, and pull off one of your nominees and nominate Bruno and try to get the House to evict Bruno. The only like backlash that I could see happen is if people were just so in love with Bruno that they try to save Bruno. But I still think that there would be enough votes to eliminate Bruno. And then all you have are just some straggling floaters that have no allegiance to anybody. You have the Diapers Alliance that are firmly together. And you can take out the floaters one by one. And the floaters, they would nominate each other because they're really not that insightful right now. And they would need someone like Bruno to rally them up. So I actually think going after Bruno would be a great move for Zach this round, 100%.
I agree. And it would be even smarter if he didn't put JP on the block, because if they didn't know that there was someone coming back in the game, there would be 8 people voting this week. So had he not put JP on the block, like, because let's say Godfrey wins veto and then he puts up Bruno. Like, let's just say worst case scenario, something like that were to happen. He only has 3 sure votes in the Diapers Alliance, whereas if he had just left JP off the block, he would have the 4 votes for the tie. So then it's like, not that I don't think he would have been able to get the votes to get Bruno out, but it's just like one of those things where he would be sure of. And I think it is a good move for him to get Bruno out, especially if he's so invested in this Diapers Alliance. Like, what better message to show to that group than like, hey, this is a group I used to be with. This is my new group. I am loyal to you guys. I want to show that I'm with you guys. So I'm gonna take out this big player that's coming after us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great move, but it sucks because I really like Bruno.
Yeah, but that's honestly Zach's best move this week.
Oh yeah, hands down. Okay, so let's talk about the big story of the night, the return competition.
Woo!
Sponsored by KFC themselves. Finger licking good.
Thanks,
These house guests are hungry to get back into the game. They are not chicken, they're fearless. So anyway, so basically what they have to do is just hang on this rope that's got knots on it. So standing on the knots. And it doesn't take long for Johnny, Greg, and Risha to just kind of fall. I think collectively they all lasted 3 minutes, or the longest one of them lasted was 30 minutes. So at the 30-minute mark, it was already down to Neha and Cindy. Were you surprised that it was down to these two?
Oh, I'm just so glad that it was down to them. Those were just the most rootable out of those 5 are Cindy and Neha, and I just love their passion and determination, the desire to come back inside the game. So yeah, it was a nice surprise that it was them two, but I'm not shocked that it's them two.
I completely agree. I think those were the two that wanted it the most, and they were ready to do whatever it took to get back in. One thing that I loved from Cindy was she was saying, if she were to get back in, she's like, Zach, Captain Canada, Mr. Cool, thinks he's good with everybody. Well, that's going to change if I get back into the house. Do you think, what do you think Cindy's once she is back in the house and playing with everybody again?
Did you ask like what Cindy's move would be?
Yeah, like what do you think her best strategy is? Who should she try to get in good with? What should she do? What should her overall goal be?
Right. Well, I think that she understands that Zach is a really influential, like scotch-free kind of like player inside the Big Brother game now. And I think a lot of house guests are like that. So it seems like she's going to be like-minded with a lot of floater folk, and so if they can just rally up and develop an alliance to overthrow the Captain Canada himself, I think that'll be fantastic for Cindy's game. Like it'll only benefit her. So I don't know. I think Cindy, like the world, this is such a perfect week for Cindy to return. I don't think that she'll be in danger of a revolving door, but you never know with these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great move. She knows that this is the guy that's running everything. It's not like she was in an alliance with him before and would come in and backstab him. I think her move is to go in, exploit her relationship with JP, see what that can get her. But just get back in with those girls, Sarah and Brittany. Try and rally the troops a little bit. She apparently has a pretty good relationship with Bruno. I don't know. I think Cindy has a really good chance. Do you
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So like I know we kind of touched on this before, but I am kind of curious. Usually in Sequester, people don't really like room with each other, but in this instance, in the comeback twist, people that got evicted were able to be sequestered together and compare notes. Do you think that they should have been separated, or do you think that it was fine that they were all able to do that?
Honestly, I don't mind it, and here's why. I think when a player comes back, most of the time they are going to be targeted. They are going to be sent right back in, and that's not fun to watch. That's they want their twist to work. So I think it's great that they allowed all these players to come together. Knowledge is power, and they're giving him a huge weapon to come back in the game. And for it to be like that early, I don't have a problem with it. I had a problem in the first season when Gary was in the jury for so long and then came back at Final Five with the information that he had with relationships that he had formed in the jury house. I have a problem with that. But since it's just the pre-jury, it was the first five out, they're going to be able to tell each other some big events, but for the most part, nothing too drastic, nothing like, I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I think it's great to give them the ability to have a chance to know what to do when to go in. That way they don't just, they get this great opportunity to go back in the game and they're running around with their heads chopped off and is most likely going to be sent right back out. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, because a part of me likes that dynamic and likes them to be able to just be really risk talking about anything because their game's already done, so it doesn't matter what they come out and say. But another part of me thinks that I think that they should just only be allowed to talk to themselves. Like if they don't understand what the dynamics are, that's on them, and they have an opportunity to go into the house and fix it. So, like you said, them being able to compare notes in a non-threatening environment, to me, is much more unfair than surviving the first 5 weeks and having to deal with everything that way. So I don't know. I'm still a little mixed about it, but we'll see how. I'm just glad that if it happened to anybody, I'm glad it happened to Cindy.
Yeah. Well, that's my question to you. Do you almost feel better about Cindy coming back into the game instead of Neha? I feel like I think the house was so ready for Neha or Greg to come back and target them. Do you think it's better that it was Cindy? Do you think she had the best chance to stick around?
Yeah, after seeing the episode, I completely agree that Neha and Greg, if they were to come back, it would be such a huge. It would be the revolving door. They would
Right.
go right back out unless they won a competition. Cindy, she wasn't in people's minds that much, and I think that like I said, whenever she got eliminated, it was a unanimous vote. It was very classy. Cindy hugged everybody but Greg, and Greg's not coming back. So she had a really classy exit. And I don't know. I think that now that she's in the game and she doesn't have those lines like Neha and Greg did when they got evicted, the world is her oyster. And I think Cindy's smart enough and competitive enough to capitalize on it and make some positive change.
I agree. I completely agree. I'm really excited to see her back in the game.
I miss those Cindy confessionals. At first, when it was just I'm Cindy with an S, I'm a princess, yada yada yada, I didn't like her at all. But then afterwards, when she talks about the game, she's so smart, and I just love her. She's so good. One of the best people that got recruited into the Big Brother house. Surprisingly, for me to say that.
Yeah, I've really turned around on Cindy. I enjoy her, and I really hope she's able to make a strong impact in the game and turn. let's talk about the immunity challenge she had to do at the end of the episode. So she wins her way back into the house, but is immediately directed into the vault where she has to do a separate challenge. If she completes it, she will have immunity for the week. What do you think about this twist having her immunity? Do you think that she should already be given the immunity? Do you think she should not even be competing? What are your thoughts about this?
Right. Like, there is the argument that like she just like beat 4 other people to get inside the game. The least you could do is give her like the immunity to come back in. But my argument is that, you know, she was evicted. She was already eliminated from the game, fair and square, and they're giving her essentially a second chance. And I don't think that the second chance should come completely easily. It shouldn't be handed to her on a silver platter. There should be some sort of like challenge for her to earn her keep. So I'm glad that they didn't give her immunity. I think that it's fair because I like if I'm inside the house and they bring in somebody that I evicted, like in week 2, and I survived on my own for the first 5 weeks. How is that fair for them to just walk in when I've been dealing with all this drama that's been happening for 29 days, and they're just like, la da da, everything's fine. Oh, I'm gonna go along with people that you're not close with, and I'm gonna vote you out. That's not completely fair either. So I'm glad that they didn't automatically give her immunity, but still gave her a possibility to win immunity should she complete this 30-minute challenge. I think it's completely okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, but I think I agree with you. You know, she won her way back into the house, and it's not like she's a total stranger like Allison. Like I can understand why they gave it to Allison last season. Um, you know, she already has these connections with people, so I think what I don't like is that they brought her in after the HOH competition. I feel like they should have, if they weren't going to give her immunity, or the possibility of not having immunity, I would have liked for her to be able to go for HOH instead of just going for veto. I guess you could see the immunity as kind of like an HOH for her, but I don't really agree with that. So that's my kind of thing. I think the timing was really weird. I would have liked to see her be able to compete in the HOH.
I could see your point. I could see your argument there for sure.
But I think it is fair to make her compete for immunity, you know.
Another thing for them competing for immunity is that, like I said, in the sequester house, they were able to share information with absolutely zero regard for the game. And that's another huge advantage. So to kind of negate that, don't give them immunity immediately. Remove them from competing in HOH. I mean, I think it's a fair trade-off.
I agree. I completely agree. So yeah, it should be interesting. Hopefully she'll get it. I think Cindy's a smart girl. I think she has a good chance of getting it. And I'm really excited to see how it shakes up the plan for the week. Do you think that Cindy returning the game is going to mess up with Zach's plans? Do you think maybe he'll think twice about turning against Bruno or Bobby? How do you think that's going to affect his game?
Well, it's going to negatively affect the game because we know that from Cindy specifically. But
that's true.
I don't know. I think Zach's only option at this point, he already nominated basically his closest ally and his worst enemy during one HOH week. So he's at a lose-lose situation right now. And if he like backdoor Cindy, he's just basically accomplishing absolutely nothing. And like anybody else can win HOH. And he made absolutely no impacts in the game. So getting rid of Cindy this week, not a good move for Zach. He needs to rally her in if he has the opportunity, or like if he has the capability to, and focus on the plans that he had at the beginning of the week, getting rid of either Godfrey or somebody like Bruno or Bobby.
I agree. Yeah, it's definitely a crazy spot, which is another reason why JP shouldn't have volunteered, because you should always expect the unexpected, and you know, serves him right to do something stupid, and then this big twist hits, probably freaked him out.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's kind of go ahead and begin to wrap up. You know, obviously tonight was a great episode. Really excited to see how the veto shakes down. I think it's a very important veto. A lot of people's lives in the game are at stake, so I'm really excited to see who's competing and who ultimately wins and what happens. But before we end tonight, I am just curious, who is your favorite player and who's your least favorite player in the game right now?
Now that Cindy with an S is back in the game, she is my favorite player. I'm so obsessed with her. I can't wait to see what she does for the rest of the game. Because I really got to see everybody, you know, like kind of meld and formulate relationships. And that's nice. But I'm ready for Cindy to come shake things up a bit. And it's just a new spirit, a new energy. I'm really, really looking forward to her. She's my favorite player at this moment. My least favorite player is just because of how usually I like hot messes, but JP, whew, you sunk deep this week. I am so glad that we got to see the type of Big Brother player you are, and you gave yourself entirely too much credit. You think that you were on such a high horse, and you finally are eating some of the humble pie that you desperately needed. So I think that JP is my least favorite player in the game. He has room to improve, but like I'm so glad he had a bad episode because he needs to wake up and realize, you know what? I have flaws. I'm not perfect, and that's okay. But I can learn and grow from this, rather than thinking that he's hot shit and is just gonna like coast his way into an eviction because going up as a pawn is a great idea. Then high-fiving Godfrey for being block buddies is great, and then tackling Zach for winning HOH is great. Dude, get some other friends. Holy shit.
Yeah, don't play harder, play smarter.
There you go.
As far as me, least favorite, I'm gonna have to say Willow. I just don't like. I don't know. As a game player, I don't think she really adds much to what's going on in the game. I think she's pretty irrelevant. She's a little bit better on the feeds. I think she's got kind of like an Andy game where she's just constantly in every conversation or busting up game talks. But I don't know. I couldn't even. I was trying to think of who was my least favorite, and I completely forgot about her. And I was like, oh well, I guess it's gonna be her then. So I don't know. I'm not getting a lot from Willow.
Can I say something real quick about Willow?
Sure.
I think the only thing that separates her from Pilar is that Pilar has a showmance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's basically it. They both have like little to no impacts in the game and don't really talk about the game that much.
Yeah, well, I'm semi-biased because I find Pilar extremely attractive. So
I also love Pilar. Love her.
Game player, awful, but
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your least favorite to favorite.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, that's basically all I had to say about that. Favorite player, this might be an unpopular option, but I love Bruno. Like I love Bruno. I think he's incredibly perceptive. I think he knows what he wants to do. He's thinking about the game and about timing, which I think is super important. I just wish he had better allies and had he had a more solidified alliance that could protect him, because I ultimately don't think he's protected very well. I think he's very vulnerable, and I think he's the biggest target in his alliance, or the remnants of the chop shop, which is not good. So I'm really hoping he doesn't end up on the block this week and sent out. I wouldn't be surprised if he is, but I'm really hoping he can wiggle his way out of the situation.
You know what? If Chop Shop renames their alliance to Remnants of the Chop Shop, I'll enjoy that alliance name.
I wouldn't go that far. What's better, Chop Shop or Diapers Alliance, name wise?
I mean, Chop Shop is corny. Diapers is lame. Do you like corn? Do you like lame? It's your preference. They're both
the big debate. The big debate.
The big debate. The big debate. Actually, I'm gonna go with Diapers just because of the people that consisted, but still not a win in either name.
I agree. So yeah, it should be a very interesting week. I think there's going to be a ton of drama, total chaos in the house with Cindy coming back, and I am so excited. So definitely want to tune in tomorrow night for the Power of Veto episode. You definitely want to tune in for our thoughts on the show afterwards. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Jacob Harple, at Most Humble, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. You do not want to miss our breakdowns of what's going on in the Canada house. So, Keith, is there anything you want to add?
No, let's wrap it up. Actually, I have a question. Can I ask one question real quick?
Of course.
I've never utilized this opportunity before. This is really exciting.
Of course.
Okay, so we talked a lot about the episode specifically, but I don't know if we addressed this question, and I'm really interested to hear your opinion. Did Zach need to win this HOH?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just don't see. I don't know. I think the only people that were targeting him were possibly Godfrey. Well, I guess you could argue yes, because if he hadn't have won, then Godfrey would have won, and then he'd be in trouble. So I take that back. He should have won.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
But it would have been much better. It would have been much better if JP won, but it is what it is.
Okay. Newport.
Newport. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So really excited about tomorrow's video episode. Definitely want to check out our breakdown. And I hope you have a good night, everyone that's watching. And do not forget, stay basic.
Stay basic. Bye.
Bye.